Hi everyone. This is a short video to explain how to make an effective 13-week rolling cash flow forecast. So many businesses post-COVID will have solvency or liquidity concerns, especially given the end of the furlough scheme, additional borrowing and short-term liabilities, which now need to be repaid. Some might already be in the zone of insolvency on a cash flow basis, i.e. at risk of not being able to pay all their debts as and when they fall due. So they need to keep a really close eye on cash. So how do you do that? Well, we use 13-week cash flow forecasts, in short, because they work. They're essential in a period of distress or turnaround because they show you your liquidity in the immediate term, and they show you if you're in danger of running out of cash. If you are in danger, then at least you can see when and decide what actions you need to take. It helps you focus on cash and prepare strategy based on the numbers. So building a cash flow forecast almost always shows ways that you can bolster cash in the short term. They also help you communicate more effectively with stakeholders whose support you might need during a turnaround. And critically, if you do need additional funding from a lender, these forecasts are usually a prerequisite. Finally, it also helps directors comply with their statutory duties. So, as we know, any forecast is as good as the information that is fed into it and the assumptions. So here is an initial list of information that should form the basis of a reasonably reliable cash flow forecast. But the reality is, in terms of what information you need, it's anything that will impact cash inflows and outflows. Obviously, if you use cloud-based accounting, then it should be quicker and easier to locate this information. However, we can build models from incomplete or partial information in hours using source documents. And source documents are important because they tend to be as free from subjectivity as possible. The key focus is usually on the items in bold, so sales and collections and creditor payments. So staff, creditors, suppliers and HMRC. So I'm going to show you a very simple forecast model and how information can be used to build a robust Excel spreadsheet to help you track cash in the short term. So here's one I made earlier, a cash flow for Widgets Limited, which starts at the end of last week as we speak, with an opening balance sourced from bank statements at 50k. Each of these tabs relates to an area of information which has been provided. So management have provided us with a sales forecast showing 235k of credit sales, which will feed into our debtors assumptions, but also another 235k of cash sales, which translate into the summary. The debtors tab, we've got an initial ledger which is unwound over the forecast period, followed by an assumption on when new sales are going to be paid, in this case, in 70 days. That process is repeated for creditors and suppliers, the balance being unwound and new payments required to be made. These assumptions and numbers then flow through to a summary tab to give you an instant overview of all cash inflows and all cash outflows. Here we see staff costs, creditors and suppliers, etc., etc. HMRC. We've also created a very simple diagram to show the cash balance, and we can see here that the overdraft limit of 50k is going to be exceeded in the week ending the 18th of October. That's the peak funding requirement. So using that, I can then look back to my weekly cash flow forecast and maybe look at why that is. Well, there's a £60,000 VAT bill, there's some rent, and there's some supplier payments. So already I've got an idea about how this might be managed. So what if we rang HMRC up and said, please, Mr. Taxman, can I have a very brief time to pay where I pay you £20,000 up front, followed by 4 months of 10k. And oh look, I've got some CapEx here as well. So actually, what if I delay that by a few weeks just to make sure I don't go anywhere near my overdraft? And what does that do to my cash flow? So instantly, we see the power of a 13-week cash flow forecast, whereas previously we were exceeding our overdraft limit and might have to have a difficult conversation with a lender. Now, we might be able to manage that more effectively through HMRC forbearance. Or whatever solution seems appropriate. The point is you have a tool which will enable you to make an informed decision. And that, in short, is why we use 13-week short-term cash flow forecasts. Thank you.